Aston Martin have re-engaged in the talks to bring Max Verstappen to their camp, and it seems like they're not willing to give up just yet. Although denials came from both teams, there is no doubt that this question is going to remain attractive for a longer period of time because of the current form Red Bull is in, and because of the future of Aston Martin. With the ambitions of Stroll and with Alonso's statement regarding Max being his teammate, can we see the transfer of the century, and more importantly, how will it impact both sides? The hottest topics in the F1 world right now are Max Verstappen and Aston Martin. Well, to put it more precisely, it's the future of Max Verstappen, despite all of the denials that came from both the four-time world champion and Christian Horner. Even though they stated that the focus will be on improving the performance of the car throughout 2025, as they are ready to invest a huge chunk of the 2026's budget in order to do so, it's not a guarantee they will be up there with the MCL 39s. This is always going to put a lot of pressure on Max when it comes to the future in Formula 1, as the Dutchman himself admitted that he's too young and has no idea what the future holds for him. According to a report from Gazzetta dello Sport, the backers of Aston Martin, Saudi's public investment fund, one that owns 20% of Aston Martin Lagonda and sponsors the team through Aramco, have prepared a lucrative offer that Verstappen will find very hard to deny. $300 million over 3 years. Yep, you heard that right. He would earn $100 million per year, and Lawrence Stroll is known as a guy who doesn't really care about the amount of money spent when it brings results to the team. Again, we know that this has been denied from both teams, but the offer itself hasn't been denied from Aston Martin. A spokesperson said that they are committed to their current lineup and they have a lot of trust in them for 2026 and beyond, but if you had Verstappen on your hand, I highly doubt you would continue with Stroll and Alonso. Of course, there are always obstacles, and in this case, it's the fact that all of the drivers involved are under a contract for 2026. This includes Verstappen, Alonso, and Stroll. And the fact that the two-time world champion spoke about being teammates with Max just hints towards the fact that an awkward conversation is awaiting for Lawrence and Lance. Elaborating on the opportunity of working alongside Verstappen, who he admires a lot because of the tenacity he's been showing in the past couple of years, Alonso has gone on to say, "I see them as being very good for the team. The world champion is sometimes linked with some other teams and a possible departure from Red Bull, and the teams that they are commenting on are Mercedes, Aston Martin and Ferrari. So this shows the project that we are in and the future that this team has." Of course, what we must not forget is that Alonso stated that while he's under contract for 2026, it's highly unlikely he's going to continue beyond 2027, which gives Lawrence the opportunity to put Max next to his son Lance. However, what would end up happening is that Aston Martin is going to turn into a one-man team, because it's highly unlikely that Lance will be able to follow up with the pace of the Dutchman in any way whatsoever. Regardless, the partners of the Silverstone-based squad are going to have their own say on this matter too. Apart from the Saudis' private fund, Honda had their own opinion on whether or not they will affect the drivers' lineup in the foreseeable future. Talking about this matter, the president of the Japanese manufacturer, Koji Watanabe, has gone on to say, "The number of seats will be reduced. However, as for us, we will continue to voice our opinions as Honda in deciding the drivers for 2026 and beyond. Obviously, the team has the final say in deciding which drivers join the team, but the situation will be the same as with Red Bull, where we will have our say." A very interesting and rather diplomatic statement has been released by Aston Martin, because the team stated that they are very committed to their current lineup. However, they did not deny the speculation for the infamous $300 million offer towards Verstappen. A spokesperson for the team has gone on to say, "It is normal for media to speculate on driver market, but we have an amazing driver lineup that we are committed to and who are under contract for 2026 and beyond. Our focus is on delivering for our drivers by giving them a more consistent and competitive car. When we do, they are both capable of delivering great results." Again, I highly doubt that Stroll falls into this category, because while he holds the 100% of the points Aston Martin scored in 2025, it's not a true representation of his worth in the team. quite the contrary. We've seen the blunders that he's made throughout the past couple of years, with Brazil 2024 being one of the most shameful ones that he could have done. Crash on the formation lap and bank his car in the sand trap. Obviously, he knows that his seat cannot be threatened and it's affecting his performance on the track. He is lacking motivation, and after breaching the infamous record of most Q1 exits in F1 history, there is no question about it. His place is not in Formula 1. But be that as it may, we need to look at the current situation and see what can happen in the foreseeable future. Right now, there is no doubt that Verstappen's tenure with Red Bull is under a huge question mark, despite his harsh response towards the question of Croft as to whether or not these links to Aston Martin and Mercedes are realistic ones. But again, why would Max or Red Bull want to admit that there are talks in the first place? We do know that stuff like this is always held behind closed doors, and whenever there is a potential leak, the involved parties will give anything in their power to shut down the rumours. According to Christian Horner, the focus now is on making the RB21 a more pleasant car to drive, because it seems like Verstappen is still in the Drivers' Championship fight, despite being in the third or fourth fastest car at the moment. Elaborating further on this, Horner said, "There's been a lot of noise outside of the team, inside of the team as well. I think Max again reaffirmed his commitment yesterday. We are focused on making the car go faster. That is where our focus is, and Max is part of that. He is a committed member of the team, and the rest is all speculation and hearsay. Sort the car out. It doesn't need to become a discussion point." Yet this is where Horner and Red Bull are lacking a lot of confidence, sorting the car out. The old wind tunnel is proving like too big of an obstacle to tackle down, and on the other hand, the facilities that are being built in Silverstone are just too attractive to be turned a blind eye to. Even Helmut Marko admitted that sooner rather than later, Verstappen might receive an offer that will be too difficult to ignore, and at a certain point, Max would have to question his loyalty to Red Bull. If they are not building the car that he needs, and he has to put this type of performance race after race, then he will have no room for a mistake. Therefore, with the first mistakes he would make, it would be a massive ground lost to his opponents. But what we must add is that Aston Martin are not the only rivals to have shown interest in signing Verstappen. Mercedes is a team that we also need to keep in mind as well, especially because both of its drivers are out of contract at the end of 2025. Russell has been rumoured to be in talks to continue his contract for at least another 2 years, but those talks have simmered down pretty fast, as Wolff said that the team is going to wait until the European part of Formula 1 comes to the calendar. According to Russell, there is nothing intimidating in having Verstappen as his teammate. Quite the contrary, he welcomed this, even if it's at the expense of his own seat, because he understands the nature of the sport. Furthermore, he said, why wouldn't Mercedes want to sign Max? It's totally understandable. He is the best at the moment. That is not anything against me or Kimi. There are 2 drivers for every team, and he is one person, so that doesn't concern me one bit, because the performance is my currency, and right now I am performing as good as anyone on this grid. I am very happy. When the time is right, we'll discuss a contract. Be that as it may, what do you think about Verstappen's future outside of Red Bull? And do you think that Aston Martin has the bigger opportunity to sign Max if he becomes available compared to Mercedes? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, have a look at the video that's appearing on your screen right now.